All right, Dixie, we are in 3-6A. We've moved up to the big leagues. We got our
We made it, Ward. We did
place
it.
up top, man. We're doing it like the Jeffersons. Moving on up.
They didn't cancel us in 5A and 4A. So now we're in 6A. We're excited. It means it's June. It's summer. We've got 7-on-7 season. And now we are talking 6A football. And of course, just like the dump, every Friday night at midnight, we start with our North Star, Crowley. And North Crowley now is our reigning and defending 6A Division One champions. What a world we live in, Ward.
They did it for the 817, as they reminded us all summer long. And the thing about North Crowley is it's two things really. You see all the people they graduated. They graduated just skill after skill after skill. But over there at North Crowley now, they A, reload, and B, when we're watching Allen, Prosper, Duncanville, DeSoto, they're playing teams like Lake Ridge and Legacy and bringing in all these sorts of backups to get skill, to get better for this year. And that's exactly what happened there. They got some guys that are good there. And, man, talk to me about, man, do you want to start defensively with this squad? Because their back secondary seems to have nothing but Power 4 offers over there.
Yeah, it's really incredible what North Crowley has been able to do. And I look at what they have coming back, and the biggest questions right now are on their skill players. And you would think that they're going to attract some highly talented skill players, but the infrastructure of the team is fantastic. You got Aaron Bradshaw, you got Jerry Outhouse. These are players, they are ball hawks. They're players that could probably be skill players and be D1 wide receivers. But you know what? They're so good in the secondary. Why I have two-way players. But you know, the creative as they've been, even though they lost their offensive coordinator, you may see some sets with some of these really talented DBs in the offensive side of the ball. But Aaron Bradshaw, he knows how to attack the ball. He's one of those players. It kind of reminds me of of Denton Geyer's skill players from a couple of years ago that just are, can be punt returners, can be kickoff returners, just talented players. And also you got DJ Beasley on the defensive line. So their defensive line is going to be good. And they've got one of the best offensive linemen in the nation in John Turntine. This is a kid who you and I could go run 100 yards behind. I don't know if you can run 100 yards anymore, Ward, but I can. I am the athlete of this podcast.
No doubt.
John Turntine, special player. But like we said, the questions for North Crowley right now are going to be who's going to be quarterback? Who's going to replace Quentin Gibson and Chris Jimerson? And so far, 7-on-7 has given us a little bit of a glimpse. My sources tell me that the battles are not over, but Burleson Centennial quarterback, which you could hear about 6 weeks ago, we talked about him on the Burleson Centennial campfire. Well, he has transferred over to North Crowley. From what I understand, he was at North Crowley his freshman year. So this is, I don't know what the situation is there, but this is a talented player in Jacob Torres who really shined last year. Burleson Centennial changed their offense to suit him. So I think he's going to fit in very well with North Crowley, and a player near and dear to my heart from our fantasy podcast last year when we talked about really high stats players. Demarion Mays at wide receiver has really lit up the 7-on-7 world. It looks like North Crowley, as you mentioned, they're not rebuilding, they're reloading this year.
Exactly. Yeah, apparently they got 3 sophomore receivers that are going to be sophomores this year that we need to know about for the next 3-4 years. So that may make Torres move over there to quarterback a little bit easier for him, especially when you have a lineman like that. I mean, they're odds on that. I mean, we saw your preseason rankings that came out a couple of weeks ago, and they're up there at the top, and reasonably so, because it's not like they shy away from anybody in the non-district either. I mean, they had to find the 4th game because they only got 7 teams in the district, so they're playing the best. But you look at the rest of this district, and each team seems to have a superstar player. I mean, you look at Zion Robinson at Mansfield, and Tavius Ellis at Crowley, Big Felix over at Lake Ridge, Felix Ocho, Kiliu Sadungo over there at Legacy. I mean, they got 3 Division I linemen in this district that are, it's not Prosper, not on the same team, but 3 in the district that are probably the best in Texas.
Yeah, the depth in this district is not strong, but like you said, every team has a star player. And Zion Robinson, how is Mansfield going to feed him the football? Because this is such a multi-talented player, size, speed. Last year, he only had 485 yards and 8 touchdowns. I look for him to be way more involved in the offense this year, maybe even at running back, a little H-back bubble screens. Just how can you feed him the ball? Jaden Vasquez is getting a lot of early D2 looks, kind of, the non-power schools are looking at him, but that still lets you know in this world of recruiting, when you're being looked at that many colleges, it shows you got some talent. And last year he had 300 yards, just kind of in slog duty, but I think he's going to be a great player for Mansfield this year. And I feel like our other friends in Crowley are a little bit disrespected. They're like, hey, what about us? But I got to know, you can talk about Tay Ellis, but how are you going to replace the contributions of Caleb Williams? He was everything for Crowley. So Crowley's got to show me a little bit this year how they're going to do that. But Brandon Ford is an incredible cornerback. Tyler Hooper at linebacker. They've got that infrastructure, but they don't have the depth that North Crowley has. And I don't even think they have the depth that Mansfield has. Mansfield traditionally has had really good offensive linemen. And when I look at Crowley's depth chart, I look at who they have coming back, I really don't see the linemen there. So I think Crowley, if they can develop an offensive line, they could be the number 2 team. And I think that would be the X factor. If I'm wrong this year, that we're going to look back and go, okay, that offensive line, they overachieved. They really stepped up. But Kenyon Cotton last year, running back for Crowley, over 1,000 yards. I mean, it wasn't just the Caleb Williams show, but can he produce the contributions for Crowley? That because Caleb Williams had almost 4,000 all-purpose yards for Crowley last year. That's a lot to replace. But Antavius Ellis, 794 yards, 11 touchdowns. Player to keep an eye on, Ward, a 2028 bobblehead recipient, if you will, Joseph Banks. That's a player I'm keeping an eye on for Crowley. He's a very special player. But again, I just look at Crowley, offensive line, defensive line. Mansfield has traditionally had that. Crowley is still developing that. But one thing when I look at the big picture of Crowley, and I know that this is something that you guys love doing big features on, Crowley's facilities, Crowley ISD, their facilities are growing and they are top notch. And I think that's really going to, over the next couple of years, attract move-ins, attract growth as that part of Fort Worth is growing. And I think North Crowley and Crowley are both going to be beneficiaries of those really new world-class track facilities over there, Ward. It's incredible what they're building.
Yeah, that stadium too. It attracts colleges because Texas Wesleyan, I think, plays their home games there at Crowley ISD Stadium because it's so sweet there. All right, we got 4 other teams in this district. Somebody's got to get that last spot. What are you looking at here in the rest of the 4?
I think it's going to be very competitive. I remember last year, Ward, you were talking about Boswell and kind of how young they were and how they're having to redistribute the talent because of the opening of Eagle Mountain. So I think they're definitely going to be players. DJ Marquez Lords, Chance Lassiter, these are skill players that really got meaningful time last year. I like Mansfield Legacy because Mansfield Legacy has that infrastructure that I don't think that Crowley has. But they don't have the skill players, but they do have some players that they have coming back. Nathan Wilson had about 800 yards passing last year, returning at quarterback. Jawan Harrison Jr. had 800 yards rushing. DeAndre Thomas, a very talented wide receiver, 230 yards receiving. With Sonogo as part of that offensive line that is going to be a really important part for Mansfield Legacy. I like them to stay at number 4. Think Boswell's just going to be on the outside looking in, but it would not surprise me because we talk about depth. I keep saying it, Ward, but a couple of injuries, and football is a very injury-prone sport, you can see a complete flip-flop because a team I'd been high on for the last 2 or 3 years, Mansfield Lake Ridge, they just had no depth, and 1 or 2 injuries, they couldn't overcome that. And I kept picking them as kind of a surprise team. In the last couple of years, they found themselves at the bottom of the district. But even a team at the bottom of the district, Felix Ojo, is just such a talented offensive lineman. And Lake Ridge, even with their depth issues, has Deshaun Edwards coming back. He had 800 yards passing and 300 yards rushing. Nolan Conrad is an athlete that you might see at receiver, you might see at running back. And Weatherford is, they're trying to get past the days of Kenny Seals and trying to get back to that thing. They graduated Xavier Craven, who had over 1,000 yards rushing. But Luke Gray and Brooks Kerbo, they rotated in at quarterback last year for Weatherford. Bryant Davis is coming back with over 250 yards receiving. But I think they're a little bit below that tier here that's going to be competing for a playoff spot. I think really, realistically, it's going to come down to Saginaw, Boswell, and Mansfield Legacy for that last playoff spot.